So like a lot of our customers of CMX2, I have a ton of presets, and I could probably stand to organize them a little bit better. I mean, CMX2 has a great tools to do that. I just haven't lately, but still I have a huge pile of them, and it's really a lot of fun for me to explore color with them. We've talked about that in different videos. I'm not here to talk about that specifically, just the idea of exploring color, but I want to talk about masking while using CMX2. It's just something that people tend to overlook or just don't consider because you're in a panel environment and you have all these buttons and you have this user interface and you kind of live there. But please don't forget the layers palette, which again is a big priority for us here at NBP. We believe making everything on the layers palette flexible, active. You can change it on the fly. Everything we do has to be on the layers palette at least 99% of the time. So check this out. Let's say you want to explore grading this image, but every time you do it, you're not completely happy with what happens to your subject versus the background. So for example, let's say I choose this gradient here called Painted Desert. And I'm like, I kind of like the tonalities. I think the subject gets too dark. Well, you don't have to just give up. No, let's go ahead and turn off that CMX2 folder for the moment, go back to our background, and we're going to go to subject selection. You probably see where this is going already, right? Now, come back over here to that folder, turn it back on. At the bottom of layers, we're going to hit mask. Now, she is masked right now. The subject is, because if you look, hold down Alt or Option, click the mask, she's masked out. I am actually going to hit Command or Control I to invert that mask, okay? Now, the background is the only thing we're seeing the new gradient on, which is pretty straightforward. But don't forget, once you do that, you can keep exploring and the background is the only thing being affected. Like for example, I'll go to this preset, see? Or I can go to this one, or I can go to this one, okay? And everything else is still available. So if I come back to my, my main tab in CMX2, I can increase the overall opacity and I can come back and I can keep exploring. They're all going to respond a little bit differently, of course, but that's the entire idea. Now, let's say I choose, let me find one that's going to really illustrate my point. So Sunset Strip, that one's a little strong. How about, what is this purple sunset? Okay, that's pretty strong, but now in my mind, I kind of like what's happening, but the subject not being part of the grading feels a little bit off. There's a few things we can do, but there's a built-in thing in Photoshop when it comes to masking that you should know about, in case you don't. So click the mask itself here on the CMX2 folder. Don't click the folder, click the mask. Now the properties window, when you have the mask selected, if you don't see that window, by the way, go to window menu, properties, okay? The properties window has some functions here. The density slider is so cool because as you push density back, the subject gets more. There's density at 0 shows her completely graded. You can blend it in sort of. Give the subject a little bit of grading, but not as much. Because let's say, like I said, the entire idea of this exercise is I want to grade the background, but I don't want to grade the subject too much because I feel like it messes her up. Okay, well, cool. You have that option right here. And it's not permanent. That's the greatest thing. You can modify the mask directly, but using this density slider, absolutely amazing way to just dial in the grade. And even if you leave it here at 54%, you can go continue to explore. So we can take that to where now she doesn't have any grade on her. Now she has full grade on her, and we can find that balance right there. Whatever it may be, whether it's a subtle grade like this or something super intense like that, you can dial in the exact balance. And oftentimes, this is why I brought this subject up in this video. Oftentimes a grade, whether it's a gradient like this from CMX2 or anything else, sometimes a color grade gives us what I call a false positive that something is wrong. Okay, this grade isn't working. Sometimes we just need to not put it as much on our subject, especially in a portrait, right? Sometimes we think, oh, it's good, but it's not enough. Or it's good, but it's way too much, right? And usually when it's way too much, we skip that grade and move on. But we can blend it in nicely using the Photoshop tools that they already come with Photoshop, obviously on a mask, but right there in conjunction with CMX2 functions, and you can just keep exploring while being able to control the mask actively with Photoshop functions.